Jeff Stearns, Connected Through Cars, very proud to introduce part 2 of the Derek Bell conversation. What you'll find interesting in this episode are the cars that are in his own garage, ice driving, and more than anything else, the humility that he somehow managed to maintain worth worldwide fame and such tremendous success. I just admire the guy. I hope you enjoy.
We all had red 924 Carrera GTSs, which we didn't even know existed. We knew it was the sister car to the GTR, but they were never for sale. And I've got one of them. I've still got it today.
What do you have not to rave about? What are you driving?
Well, let me finish what I have in.
Go ahead, sorry.
I have a beautiful old, and he came running up to me and he said, "Well done, old boy. That was fantastic."
Did you stay with Steve McQueen, or is that just a rumor? I just love your point of view. You like whatever you see comes from a point of appreciation and gratitude, it seems.
Yeah, it is. It's very kind of you to say so, but I mean, I guess it is genuine. Yes, I mean,
it's how I want to live. It's how I want my family to live. I mean, it's.
Well, there's no reason they can't.
Jeff Stearns, Connected Through Cars. If they're bigwigs, we'll have them on the show. And yes, we'll talk about cars and everything else. Here he is now, Jeff Stearns.
So now I got to ask you, we've been together a while and you've been super generous with your time. What's in your garage? We know you have the 550, but that's not your daily driver. I'm hearing about this Jeep. So what do you have?
Well, my cars are really in England, but I have the Maranello, and then I have, which was a dream car for me because I raced for Enzo all those years ago, and I always swore I'd have one. I had two during that. Soon after my time at Ferrari, I had a 275 GTB4, and then I followed it with a Ferrari Daytona. But I mean, I bought it, I don't know, but they weren't expensive then. If you bought them duty free, as it were, because I traveled all around Europe in them, so I didn't need to pay tax on them. Anyway, that's another story. I always swore one day I'd get another Ferrari before I kicked the bucket. And just that, anyway, as luck would have it, 10 years ago, I bought this car from my manager, David Mills. He didn't make his money out of me, so I don't think that. But so David had this beautiful car, and so one day I said, if ever you sell it, I'd like to buy it from you. And then tragically, he got cancer and he passed away. So I bought it from his wife, from his widow, because they were probably my best friends. So
and what is that car, Derek?
Where?
What is the car?
The 250. Sorry, it's the 550 Maranello.
Oh, the 550s from Mr. Mill. Okay, got it.
It was David's car, and then on top of that, I have a very special Porsche. It's a 924 Carrera GTS. I raced one, fortunately, with dear old young Al Hulbert, and we raced together for the factory at Le Mans in 1981. Am I right? Let me just 80, sorry. And we drove them there because Porsche didn't enter the big fast cars, and whereas I'd driven for them before that. And so I drove the American entered 924 Carrera GTR, as it was called. And then they had a British car with two top British drivers, and then a German car with, I think, 3 top German drivers. And Peter Gregg had an accident in the American car in practice, but not in the car, in the road car. He ran into a farm cart in his road car, in his rental car, and he had a bit of, concussion. So the doctors weren't happy for him to do 24 hours. So they took me out of the British car because that had 3 drivers and put me in with Al. And so I started the race with Al Hulbert. And we actually were lying fifth at 7 o'clock in the morning, this little thing with 300 horsepower. It was absolutely astonishing because we were so economical. We didn't have to go in for fuel more than once every 4 hours in the rain. And we were very good in the rain together as a pair. The car was super as well in the rain with its perfect sort of weight balance and lack of power, really. A bit slow on the straight, I suppose.
Well, 924s, I mean, I remember driving them. I mean, I never drove your limited edition GTS, but that was a slow acceleration car, I thought.
Yeah, but not if you had the turbo. You went up from 150 horsepower to 350.
Okay, slight difference.
Yeah. And, once Porsche adopted it around a bit. But anyway, I've got one of that group of cars, but mine is a road car. It was my option to have one at the end of that year or the next year when I joined them to drive the 2 years later, I drove the Jules car, the 936 in 1981. And then in 82, an XNI won. And then in 82, I was driving Rothman's 956. And you had the use of a car for a year, and you could have it if you wanted it. And so nice. I had this beautiful red. We all had red 924 Carrera GTSs, which we didn't even know existed. We knew it was the sister car to the GTR, but they were never for sale. And I've got one of them. I've still got it today. So
now this is at the farm or over here in Boca?
No, I've got nothing here. There's no point here because the roads are so awful.
You don't have a car here?
I do, but I don't have anything to sort of rave about.
Well, okay. So what do you have not to rave about? What are you driving?
Well, let me finish what I have in England.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And then I have that, which I enjoy very much. Very special car. And basically fiberglass. It's very different to the general cars. And then I also have last 2 years ago, Porsche Great Britain, what would you say, developed or had built 45 British Legends Edition 911 Carrera 4 GTS. There were 45 built. They had 15 in my colors because I had won Le Mans several times. They had 15 in Richard Atwood's colors, because he had been the first driver for Porsche that won it in the 917 in 19, whatever it was. I'll never get it right, I suppose. 70, I think Richard won it. 70 or 71. Yeah, 70, I think it was. And then we had a very talented young Nick Tandy, who's just gone to Corvette, funnily enough, for this next year. But he won Le Mans in the last era of Porsche's racing in the last few years, and he won Le Mans 1 year with the Porsche team. So they did 3 sections of 15 cars in our colors, and so mine's sort of in the low and brow blue. And it's got the very fine Rothman stripes along the bodywork, and a little roundel on each side, right down low by the front wheel, with number 1 on, because I was world champion that year as well. So Porsche put it on for that particular era. And the inside is Kevlar and very lightweight, although it's not it's not nasty. It's very, very luxurious, very quick, but it's a lovely car. So I'm
dream car.
Great car, yeah. So that's what I have in England. Here I have a beautiful old ragtop Jeep that I've had since new, turquoise color. It's the only one in Boca. And then we have a Porsche Macan S, which is from it. Misty runs around in.
Okay. Now now the Jeep, is this a late-ish soft top or like a CJ model or what?
All I know is it's a Jeep Wrangler and it's 20 years old.
Okay. With a Wrangler.
It's lovely. Everywhere I go, people go, "Oh, I love your car," and they say, "Well, I've had it since new." You can't believe it. I've had it since 92, I think.
No, that's a fabulous car, and I think a lot of people would be curious. You're talking about the amazing cars, which are amazing, and we want to hear about it. But I was curious what was in your regular garage here, for sure.
That's it.
Is there any new car that does anything for you?
Yeah, lots of lovely cars. I wish I had a Porsche. I wish I had a Bentley. I'd love to have a Ferrari, but I just don't see any point here, because where the hell are you going to drive them? Up and down I-95 at 75 miles an hour. It sounds an awfully sort of arrogant thing to say, but in Britain, and if you lived in the further up country in America, but living in Florida, which is what we enjoy.
There's nowhere to drive.
There's nowhere to drive it. And even anywhere else, you can get booked. You can get booked in Europe too, but you can go over the Alps and give it stick and drive. The trips I used to have from England down to Maranello when I was with Ferrari, and go over the top of the mountains, and during a day. It was just glorious, driving it fast and smoothly, and it was gorgeous. And even now, you can enjoy your drives down through Europe and across Europe. And I can enjoy driving around England. And I get back to England, I take the cars out up over the downs, past Goodwood and up towards London. And obviously not in the rush hour in certain times of the day, but I can go and have a blast on the roads and drive as fast as I want. No, I'm not 25 anymore and just want to make a noise and sort of leave rubber marks up the road. It doesn't. I've had a good time, driven all sorts of things, and I've loved racing, and I would race tomorrow. I raced last November a year ago in that last race I ever did in the Lermbrow car. I'm still driving quickly, and I love it. And I'm lucky to be able to sit here and tell the tales.
That's right. How about the new Corvette? Have you driven it?
No, I've seen it. I think they've done a wonderful job. It's time they did do a wonderful job. I thought the previous one was fantastic, how they developed it. But what I find intriguing, and I give Corvette their due. General Motors or whoever was behind that program my son Justin drove for them for a year, didn't he? Yes, and Viper as well, but I think it was 1 year, not 2 years. Anyway, he drove for them for a year. And those cars were wonderful, and they did so much for their image because, Corvette went around the world racing them at Le Mans, at Sebring, at Daytona, and at Nürburgring. Every place you could go to, they would race. And they improved their image worldwide. They must have boosted their sales no end. And the last development of that car was a magnificent machine. And the new one is obviously mid-engined. I think it looks a little bit big sometimes. It's funny, I've seen them around in Boca, and when I saw it at Daytona earlier this year, I suppose, I was desperately impressed. And they said, come on, get in. There's no way I could get in it because they had all the wires and the side roll cages and all that sort of thing. But I think it's just brilliant what they've done. And that's all from the development of motorsport. So they're a classic example of what motorsport has done for their image.
Just gorgeous. I think for the money too, for MSRP, depending on equipment, it could be under 100.
Yeah, it always has been great, hasn't it? That's the whole point. It had been fantastic. And then having done that for years, and people saying, they wanted a bit more, they then go racing, and then they develop it, and then they really get an image worldwide. How it must have improved their image worldwide. It was fantastic.
Yes. They were always a value, but now when you look at one, it looks like easily 250,000 going down the street.
Yeah, it does. I quite agree. No, it does. I've not
really does.
One.
So you mentioned
it must be good.
You mentioned the Grand Marshal thing coming up, God willing, COVID, etc. I know you're going out of your mind being stuck at home because you like being active, you like working, you're very social. So it's making you a little crazy. So do you have anything else? You got to look forward, right? So other than that Grand Marshal thing,
all sorts of things. Yeah,
you just need this thing to break.
Everything. Basically, everything we were doing this last year is being transferred to 2021, with the hope that, but we'll have to just hope and pray that it all comes off. It's like Amelia Island, which is in March, but we'll do it, and but it's to prepare for it, it's like Pebble Beach and all of them. They've got to be doing it now to prepare for next year. And if it doesn't happen, it's a lot of work gone in, and which costs a lot of money. So it's all very much hand to mouth. So we'll have to wait and see for all of it.
Are you bottlenecked because you moved everything forward, or is it just kind of the same calendar next year? No,
it's the same sort of thing. Yeah. It's not got, I wouldn't say there's sort of thousands of people. I literally, when I was coming on the air with you, I had a thing from France, from an event I've been asked to do. So I had to reply this morning, or what they wanted to reply. And they're fabulous events. You get to drive cars from your history on racetracks, and with some of but there's some of the drivers from my era when I drove for Renault for 2 years actually, Renault Alpine. And it's just great. I was so lucky to drive for a sort of French team like that, having driven for a German team, and and so on and so forth. Just great, and just the knowledge of the drivers. Just chatting with them. It's just lovely to really have these reunions.
I just love your point of view. You like whatever you see comes from a point of appreciation and gratitude. It seems.
Yeah, it is. It's very kind of you to say so, but I mean, I guess it is genuine. Yes, I mean,
it's how I want to live. It's how I want my family to live. I mean,
there's no reason they can't. But I mean, I don't know where. I mean, you are what you are. I mean, my parents were just regular people, and I don't know. I can't explain it. There's no point in trying to.
Now, you mentioned your son, Sebastian, and now I know why you didn't make fun of me for having a baby at 55.
That's right.
But what's he doing? Is he working or school?
He's at Purdue University studying or taking his fourth year of electrical engineering.
Okay. So the very smart one.
Yeah, he's like his mother, not like me. But he's very bright, but he's a fabulous driver.
No kidding.
Oh yeah, I saw him driving around Goodwood last. He just got in a BMW race car, GT or touring car, whatever you want to call it. Maybe 3 years ago. He was 17, I think. And he just got in it and drove. And I couldn't believe I saw the speed of this thing coming down straight through the corners, right towards where I was standing. And I went, "Who the hell's that?" And then Lord March said to me, "What are you looking so astounded for?" I said, "I don't know, but." I said, "I think that was Sebastian that just went by." And he said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, well, the other BMW is sitting here." So that was him. It was just very impressive. He's just natural. I mean, I think it's genetic. I can't explain it any more than that. Justin, was a fabulous driver, and Sebastian's just the same. But
now, what about your daughter? What about your daughter?
She's a very good driver. She's driven Formula 3 cars around Goodwood and stuff like that. Just got in it one day, the car that we ran for she actually got in Justin's car, which wasn't even Formula 3. It was more powerful than that. It was a car called Opel Lotus, and it was a Lotus chassis with an Opel or General Motors 2-liter engine. And Justin raced it for 2 years. He came over here and he only raced it in Europe. He'd only raced that. It was about 3 or 4 years they did it. General Motors supported the series. And it was single seaters, and a good series. It was like Formula 3 or whatever. I don't know what similar formula you have here now to that. And it's more than Formula 4 and quick. And Justin had done pretty well. I think he finished third in the championship behind Mika Hakkinen and Alan Anish. So there's some good young drivers came through it. And it was Derek Bell Racing Team that he drove for. And so we had the car at Goodwood. And I mean, it's terrible, really. We've got no footage, no filming, nothing of it, But Melanie gets in this thing and drives it around the racetrack. She'd never sat in a race in her life. But she's very good. She was more into horses. So I had Justin racing motocross at weekends on 100cc Yamahas and God knows what else, Kajibas and things. So he was out, and he and I were doing that. And my wife was out with Melanie riding her ponies and doing show. No, don't call it show jumping. She did eventing, which is when you go through the forests over the jumps, and then you have to do the smart stuff, dressage, and then you have show jumping at the end. But it was sort of 2 or 3 day event, and she was really good at that, actually.
I was waiting for you to say that, like, no one's allowed to ride motorcycles because of safety or something. But
no. I never rode them till I was, I said, 40 years old. So.
When you're riding, are you doing like the 50 feet in the air, handlebars cocked, all that business?
Not quite. No. I still go. We get airborne or catch air now and again. But I mean, obviously, you're not. Nobody was doing that in Enduros. I mean, you're out there doing 100 miles, 150 miles in a day. So you're going through forests and up vertical cliffs and God knows. I mean, it's wild. It's so fit. It's unbelievable fitness. If you didn't fall off and hurt yourself.
Oh my God. Now, from a legacy standpoint, I mean, I know that part of your legacy, and I hope you recognize it, but the attitude that you give your family, this gratitude and appreciation. I mean, you said you are what you are and all of that business, but I think along the way in life, you kind of decide, you make some choices on your points of view and how to look at things. I don't think you're a complete, as the wind blows, your personality and attitude. You had to make some, was there anyone along the way that you admired, or was a mentor, or were your parents like that, or did you choose it, or is it just luck?
I really don't know. I mean, my mother had wonderful personality. My stepfather was a charming man. My stepfather was very quiet, but loved sport, but he didn't participate. And thanks to him is how I got into racing, as I say, or persevered in racing. I couldn't have done it without him. And my mother had this just gorgeous personality and friendliness and hospitable person, and everybody loved her. My daughter has much the same, and Justin, I guess, has the same, and Sebastian has the same, and I married Misty now, and she is very much the same, has this lovely personality. And as far as, the rest of life, which they're the ones that dictate what I'm like or what we're all like. And then, of course, you have, my hero was Sterling Moss.
Okay.
And he was, and we became, thank goodness, such great friends. I used to see him. I mean, he had a place near me here. We used to spend the day after Christmas together apart and have lunch. And we would go out around here in Boca and between here and Miami quite frequently. Whenever he was in town, we always, because he had a place down at Aventura. So and in fact, the house, my first time, actually, Sterling's the reason I probably half live in Florida. When we won the Miami Grand Prix, Al Holbert and I, in 1985, we won it there. And of course, I raced at Miami, I think 3 years. And during that period, I'd known Sterling sometime. We'd done other things together back in Britain, but not raced against him because he retired after his major accident in 1962 when I was marshalling at Goodwood, which I suppose is something to do with my hero worship for him.
Right.
And he came up to me at the Miami Grand Prix after I'd won it, or we had won it, but I was on my own at the time after the prize giving, walking back. And he came running up to me and he said, "Well done, old boy. That was fantastic." And I thought, my God. I said, "Really?" He said, that was amazing. I said, "I can't believe you're saying this to me." I said, "You're my hero." He said, "No." He said, "You're my hero." And he said, that was an astonishing drive. And he and I became much closer, well, quite naturally closer. He was a very open guy as well, actually, but he got so much infamy and he was so famous, certainly in Europe. I mean, he was the best known ever racing driver in reality, certainly in Britain anyway, certainly. And he just had this amazing he was young and, he wasn't fat and flabby and just drove because he had the money. He drove because he was damn good, and he won. The thing he couldn't win was basically the world championship, and he should have been. And he and I knew him so well. I mean, I could almost write a book about his and my relationship. And so we got chatting while we were after the Miami Grand Prix. He said, "Where do you stay when you're here?" And I said, "Well, Bale Hotel, wherever it is, when I come over." He said, "You should come to. I've got a house, old boy." He said, up at in Fort Lauderdale. He said, "I've got a villa there." He said, "You should stay there." So I then, he said, "More than welcome, anytime you like." So the next year I contacted him. I'd seen him anyway during the year. And I said, "I'd love to take you up on that." So I borrowed his house for a month in a place called Bonaventure, which still exists today, out there on I-75, going across Alligator Alley before you go on it, before Alligator Alley existed. And so he said, "You can have that." So he went and stayed there. And while I was there, of course, I looked around and, of course, found a little villa, or a condo, actually, because it had been so good. I remember by that point, it was now sort of mid to late 80s. And I was in America most of the time then. And so I bought a place out on Bonaventure. I actually stayed in Sterling's place to start with, as I say, and then bought a place. And he was like half a mile away. and we stayed. We were very close, and we had a good time to it. I admired him immensely. I'm not talking about our relationship really too much, but his style, the way he did his racing, he was an amazing man. And so, I certainly didn't model myself on him. I wouldn't dream to think that I was capable of it because he was exceptionally good. But I certainly loved his attitude. And you can't help it. If you like somebody a lot and you spend time with them, you end up, if you like, following. I mean, I followed him when I was a 15-year-old at school. When he was at LeMans, I had my little crystal radio out in bed at school at night, sort of listening to the LeMans 24. So he was always my hero.
Well, there's your answer. That's wonderful. And what a nice friendship story that is.
Yeah, it was, yes.
Really, what a great guy. Now, in your, you're probably tired of hearing about this Ford versus Ferrari. I know a lot of people that, but you went to that debut, right?
Yeah, yes. The first screening, yes.
Over in what, Paris?
In Paris, yeah. That was very nice because there was Tom Christensen, Henri Pescarolo, all of us had won Le Mans numerous times. And I don't know who else. There was another, and Gerald Larousse, but he was, he never won Le Mans that many times, but he did win it for Porsche. And of course, he ran major teams in France, and he was French. So they had 5 of us drivers or something like that there. And then obviously, Christian Bale was there and Matt Damon.
You guys went to dinner, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, we didn't go to dinner with them. We were with them up on the red carpet before, just for the photographs and all that nonsense. And that was nice to meet them and shake hands and chat and that sort of thing. And then we saw the movie with an audience there in the theatre on the Champs-Élysées. And then afterwards, we all went to dinner, but they didn't because they were with their wives and kids and things, so they didn't come.
Got it.
All the French, the governing body from Le Mans and the FIA, and there was lots of people there. It was great.
Had to be interesting.
Yeah. Well,
in life, I mean, let's say, like you're saying to yourself, look, I'm getting invited to this thing. I don't know if you get jaded to that or you say, oh my, like this is so interesting.
No, I've never actually been to a premiere before. No. So
even look I'm wearing my Steve McQueen t-shirt.
I noticed that, but why is the Indy 500 on it?
I don't know. I got it at Banana Republic.
Oh, right. Well, they would flog it. Yeah, I did because he never did the Indy 500. So I just won on it.
So here's me, not even when I was looking this morning for a t-shirt to put on, all I saw was Steve McQueen. I think I've had the thing 10 years.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Laying in I sound like an old person. Like I have t-shirts older than that now. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. But you were in the Le Mans movie. And speaking of staying in Sterling's house, did you stay with Steve McQueen or is that just a rumor?
No, obviously I didn't know him when we arrived on the movie, but I was only driving, and then I got to know him very well during it. And then, the last, I can't remember, probably 4 to 6 weeks, I suppose everybody's sort of accommodation where he had been staying had expired. Mine had in the house that I'd rented for my family. And so we actually shared a house together. Shared a house together, which was fun. That's when I met his son, Chad, and his daughter. And it was Neil, his wife at that time. And it was just a great experience, but it was also casual, the whole thing, because we'd been working together for a couple of months, 2.5 to nearly 3 months, I suppose. Seemed like a year, but it was on reflection. But it was just a great opportunity to earn some extra money and to get to know a star like Steve and the other people that were involved. I mean, there weren't any other stars really in the film apart from Steve, but it was about the cars really and that particular race, which is something he wanted to do.
Well, he's obviously personifies cool, and he plays cool, but you really are cool. So I'm wondering, what happened between you guys?
He was cool. I wasn't cool. I was green. I was like with my eyes wide open, but no, he was cool because you just think I got some great pictures on the wall of him here, and his book and all the rest of it. I mean that you know, the what was it called? A French Kiss with Death. I mean, he was very cool, and he was very good as a driver.
He was legit as a driver. Okay.
But yeah, he was. When I reflect on it, he was. I mean, I would only been racing 5 years. I was in my 6th season, and I hadn't raced that much. You know what I mean? 6 sounds a long time. But
so you were really a rookie then? Okay.
I was, yeah.
You weren't Derek Bell yet.
Yeah, and you know, got to know Steve and driving with him, although we weren't ever racing. But I mean, we were out there. I was with Joe Sifford, who became my teammate the next year at Porsche, and Joe was one of the 2 top Formula sports car drivers in the world, apart from how good he was in F1 and sports cars and God knows what else. Other times sort of touring cars and stuff. But and Steve would hang in with us. I mean, we always went very quickly. We went as near as damn it to flat out, and he would always stay with us. Yeah. And at the time we thought, oh, that was good. But then actually when you reflect on it and you think about the cars that he drove, the 917, and somebody said he did have an accident in one. I never heard he did. I only heard it subsequently, but there's always people trying to throw sour grapes on something.
Right.
But I had an accident. It was never really reported, and there's certainly no photographs of it. And then, you know, I thought something would have come out by now because, you know, he died 30 years ago. So,
but you got hurt in that movie, right? In the Ferrari.
Yes, I got burned coming back from a shot with Steve. But I mean, it was at the time. I saw a photograph of me the other day. It was on the internet. God, it was horrible. All around here was black as hell and really burnt, and you could just see my eye. I mean, how I didn't burn my eye, I have no idea. But it was very sore for a while. But it doesn't show at all now. It used to show quite a lot when I was tired or sort of, you know, worn out or under pressure. It was sort of, you could see the lines, but there isn't anything. It's amazing. I mean, if I go in the sun now, for example, it doesn't burn one side more than the other. It's incredible how your body recovers from that sort of thing.
Right. And I mean, but here you are doing this thing, racing, driving at these speeds. Like I said, watching this VHS tape where I'm like a little nervous as the passenger in this tape, and you're okay with it. But did you ever, I mean, you said every night you thought about 30% of the people died and everything, but was that like a little bit of a mortality moment where you thought twice after, or did you just shake it off and keep going in your career?
Well, I don't think you ever shake it off because you've got friends that are being killed. And but it's something you adapt to eventually, and it's not happening every day, but it's certainly persistently in the back of your mind. That's for sure.
But that fire in that Ferrari, was that a moment or not so much because you were young?
Well, I wasn't young. I was 40 years old, wasn't I suppose.
Well, 40 to me sounds young, so I don't know how it sounds to you now.
Yeah, well, now it does. Anyway, it don't matter what age I was. I must have been younger than that. Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was 30. Bloody hell. Yeah, I was 30. But anyway, the age didn't come into it. No, I mean, things happen like that. I got scorched 3 times a month before in a Ferrari at the Spa 1,000 kilometers. My first ever race in a sports car. Each time I got in and turned the key, the car went flames ripped across it, and I burned all my eyebrows then. And I got in, and it was ridiculous. But you know, there were lots of fires, and as long as you didn't really get hurt. I mean, I didn't have to go and have treatment after it, but I carried on and finished 7th in the race. But I burnt my eyebrows, and I hit the window, and they had to smash the window to try and get me out with a fire extinguisher. They broke the window to try and open the door to get me out because the strap had broken that opened it. But I still went in and finished the race. And so, you know, because all you want to do is win. You know, it's strange. So people must think I'm completely bloody nuts. Maybe we all were nuts. I don't know, but I don't. On reflection,
I think you had to be a little nuts. I mean, you know, you're setting aside a little survival instinct to do your passion, right?
Yeah, I just can't imagine. I mean, yeah, I can't go back and I can't analyze that period.
No, but you wouldn't do anything else. You would not do it.
No, I wouldn't. No. But I mean, look at that kid that had his accident the other day, you know, in Bahrain or wherever it was. I mean, he was the luckiest driver that's ever survived a fire or an accident. And he still wants to get back in and race again.
In the Grand Prix, Roman.
Yeah. Yeah. He would still have another go. Of course he would. Because it's the adrenaline rush of driving those cars, you know.
Well, only today or this recent generation could people walk away from accidents.
Yeah.
Like in that F1 Grand Prix. And I'm really grateful that you went a little bit off of, you know, the resume history. I mean, you gave some phenomenal stories, but a little bit into your personal insight. So I'm completely grateful and getting this project off the ground with this podcast. And you were one of my most exciting people that agreed, even though you thought I was the Porsche guy.
That's all right.
This has been Jeff Stearns, Connected Through Cars.